Awesome, so you've made it to the 4th video in the Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Dota 2 series. And if you watched the first 3, I'm actually surprised you're here and haven't uninstalled this stupid hard game yet. Well done to you though for making it this far. Certainly you'll be learning some valuable information, and by the end of this episode, you'll know a little bit more, this time about the map. Not everyone knows some of the things I'm about to tell you, I'm sure, but that's why you're here and learning, and why you should subscribe and ring the bell if you haven't already, so you can be updated as soon as the next video in the series is out. Now, I watched some of those how-to YouTube guides, and they suggest that I keep the intro as short as possible, and since this will probably be a big video, let's get to it before I lose more of you. But before that, I do want to say that this is a long video, and I've put some shortcuts in the description which will take you to the different topics that I cover in the video. Now that you've been warned, you're not allowed to complain about how long the video is, alright? Now, I've explained parts of the map in earlier episodes, but we will dive a bit deeper this time. As you know, there are two sides in Dota, the Radiant side and the Dire side. Technically, the Radiant are the good guys and the Dire are the bad guys, or the Light and Dark if you're into Star Wars, but that's kind of besides the point, as both teams can choose heroes from either side anyway. On the map, Radiant are in the bottom left corner, while Dire are in the top right. The two sides are distinctly divided by the river, which roughly runs diagonally through the middle of the map. The rest of the map is made up of jungle areas in which you will find neutrals and probably some enemies trying to kill you, if they're not in one of the other 3 lanes farming gold to buy better items to kill you with. Now, I'm sure you already know the 3 lanes, but they are top, middle and bottom. These can also be described as the safe lane, middle lane, and off lane, or the hard lane. The safe lane and the hard lane swap depending on which team you are on. For Radiant, the safe lane is the bottom lane and the hard lane is the top lane. For Dire, it's the opposite, with the top lane being the safe lane and the bottom lane being the hard lane. The reason they're named the safe or the hard lane is because of the relative safety which is given by the tower where the creeps naturally meet. If the creeps get to lane without being blocked, they will meet near the bottom tier 1 Radiant tower and the top tier 1 Dire tower. In the early game, the towers deal significant damage to all heroes, and so they provide a reasonable amount of safety just by being near them. You also have less chance that an enemy will wrap around the tree line to attack you from behind, so if you are attacked, you are much more likely to survive in the safe lane, at least early game. Every 30 seconds, creeps will spawn in each lane for each team and traverse all the way down the lane until they meet each other and fight to the death. Creeps are very important in Dota for your hero, as killing the creeps gives you gold in order to buy items as well as giving you experience to help you level up. Now, you might think that it sounds easy, but in order to get the gold, you must get the last hit, meaning that your attack must be the last one to hit the creep and kill it. This is much easier late game, as your hero naturally gets stronger, but early game it's much more difficult as you are fighting the enemy in the lane as well as trying to kill the creep before the enemy can deny their own creep. As I mentioned in the last video, denying a creep means to attack your own creep when it is below 50% health and get the last hit on it, denying the enemy gold and a lot of experience. Last hitting is a very important skill to learn, and I've actually made a separate video on this which I'll link in the description, so make sure you go and check that one out. In order for your weak ass early game hero to get stronger, you need experience, which you get from being within a 1200 radius of creeps dying. That's actually quite a large radius, and keep in mind that you don't need to get the last hit in order to get the experience, you just need to be in range. If you're really struggling to get last hits or even stay in experience range in the lane, then you might have to resort to the jungle, where you can find neutral creeps. Neutral creeps are so called as they don't belong to any particular side and prejudice everyone equally. If you get too close or attack them, they will fight back. Killing these creeps will also give you gold and experience, but often it is much harder, especially early game, as they are quite strong and also don't reward as much gold or experience. Hopefully you understand this and realize that early game you need to get as much as you can out of your lane as possible, as jungling is really weak early, especially in this meta. The jungle has multiple levels of camps, starting with the easy camps, then the medium camps, then the hard camps, and finally the ancient camps. As you progress through the different levels of camps, you'll obviously earn more gold and more experience, but the neutrals are much harder to kill and deal a lot more damage. You can click on any of the neutral creeps in the camps and check out their stats, damage and abilities, as they all slightly vary. Some creeps have extra armor, while some are more resistant to magic, so killing them will take a little bit of extra work. These creeps also spawn a little bit slower than your lane creeps and spawn every minute on the minute, as long as you or a ward is not blocking the spawn box. Now, I have forgotten to mention one creep, but that's because he's not just any ordinary creep. He is the legendary Roshan. This guy is one of those scare monsters straight out of Monsters Inc., and I'm sure he's filled a few scream canisters in his day. Nowadays, he just hangs out in his river lair somewhere halfway-ish between mid lane and top lane. Roshan is the boss of the Dota map, and is very difficult to kill, even late game, as he grows stronger every minute and often requires multiple heroes from the team to bring him down. The reward is great though, as killing Roshan will grant your entire team a pile of gold, lots of experience, but most of all, the Aegis of the Immortal. On slaying Roshan, one player in your team can pick up the Aegis, which gives them a second life if they die within the next 5 minutes. Roshan takes the longest to respawn out of all the creeps, and will randomly appear within the next 8 to 11 minutes after his brutal murder. Killing Roshan multiple times grants further rewards, with the second time also granting cheese, which is a consumable item restoring an immediate 2500 health and 1500 mana. The third time will add either a consumable Agnim's Blessing or a Refresher Shard, and the fourth time or more is all 4 items. Roshan is one of the most important objectives on the map, as killing him gives you a great teamfight advantage, as usually your strongest hero will have 2 lives. Now, I've spent like half the video talking about creeps and stuff that moves around on the map, but not the stuff that's actually on the map. Although I guess creeps are on the map, but anyway, let's talk about runes. There are 2 types of runes that spawn on the map, power runes and bounty runes. Bounty runes spawn in 4 locations every 5 minutes, starting at 0, as highlighted on the map here, and gives a small gold bonus to your whole team. As the game progresses, the bounty goes up and is definitely worth trying to get. Often, teams will try to secure 2 or 3 bounty runes at the start of the game, and can often be a place where first blood is given up. Power runes on the other hand spawn every 2 minutes at one of 2 possible locations in top river or bottom river, with the first rune spawning at the 2-minute mark. After 40 minutes, one rune will spawn at top river and bottom river every 2 minutes. Now, power runes are really powerful and have the ability to alter your hero temporarily in a variety of ways. There are 6 different power runes in total, and are great for the mid lane or roaming heroes to pick up to refill their bottles, as well as set up ganks. Double damage doubles your base damage, and is a great rune for ensuring you get the last hits in lane or for setting up a kill. Haste is another rune which is great for setting up kills, as it grants you maximum movement speed for a short period of time. The Illusion rune provides 2 duplicates of your hero, which take increased damage and deal reduced damage. Invisibility makes your hero invisible to the enemy after a short fade time, and is also good for setting up ganks. The Arcane rune is a great one for spellcasters, as it reduces the mana cost of abilities and also reduces the cooldown while the rune is active. The last rune, Regeneration, refills your health and mana to full, and dispels once you're full, once it runs out, or if you get attacked by an enemy hero. This is a great rune for spamming out your spells on the enemy, as you'll keep the rune going until one of those previous things I mentioned happens. Rune control is a strategy in Dota, as they can really be game changing, so make sure you consider getting these when you can. I mentioned this in the history and overview video, but structures are very important resources on the map. There are many structures in the game, most of which have a purpose. These are towers, the ancients, barracks, shrines, and then last of all these useless buildings which really do nothing but distract creeps from attacking the real objectives. Towers provide vision in an area and also a degree of protection, as they increase your armor while nearby and will also attack enemies that get near. Every lane has towers, and they increase in strength the closer you get to the ancient. The outermost towers are called the tier 1 towers, the towers after that are called tier 2 towers, the towers just inside the base are tier 3 towers, and the final 2 towers in front of your ancient are, yeah, you probably guessed it right, tier 4 towers. You must attack each tier in order, and cannot attack a tier 2 tower until the tier 1 tower in front of it has been destroyed. All structures and towers from tier 2 also have backdoor protection, which gives a huge damage reduction and healing to the buildings if there are no nearby creeps when you're attacking it. In the very late stages of the game, it is still possible to destroy buildings through backdoor protection, but it is very difficult and not very common. Just behind your tier 3 towers in each lane are the ranged barracks and the melee barracks, and these are very important to defend if the enemy is pushing, or destroy if you are pushing. Breaking a barracks will upgrade your melee or ranged creeps in that particular lane, meaning that they will have a natural tendency to push towards the enemy's base, as they will be stronger than your enemy creeps. The ranged barracks is weaker and will not regenerate health if it has taken damage, however the melee barracks will regenerate health if it is not destroyed in one push. The ancients are the very last structure in your base, sitting behind the barracks and the tier 4 towers. Once this is destroyed, the game is over and the team whose ancient was destroyed loses. You pretty much want to defend your ancient at all costs because, well, if you don't, you lose. Which, sure, maybe you want the game to be over because you've died 23 times and you want to queue for another round of punishment. Each team also has 2 shrines in their jungle, which can be activated once every 5 minutes to quickly restore health and mana to any nearby allies. These can be destroyed once one of the tier 3 towers has also been destroyed. Finally, each team also has a fountain, which is where you spawn at the start of the game as well as if you die. The fountain is a source of life for each team, which is understandable for the Radiant side, but maybe not so much for the Dire side because they're all about darkness and death and stuff. Anyway, if you ever get hurt in the game or run out of mana, you can return here for a full recharge. When you improve at DotA, you'll want to limit the time you spend going back and forwards from the fountain, as you often can't gain any extra gold or experience during this time. Now, you're probably wondering a little bit about items and where to get them. Or maybe you're not because you still have no clue, but indeed, in DotA you must buy items from a shop. There are actually 3 different shop types in DotA. These are the base shop, the secret shop, and the side shop. It is important to know where they are as many items are built from a combination of items from the base and secret shops. First of all, the shopkeeper that runs the base shop can be found in the fountain and is where you will buy your items at the very start of the game, as well as various stages throughout the game. This shop sells basic and intermediate items as well as consumables and recipes to upgrade your items. I will be explaining items in our next video, so make sure you come back for that one as this is the map video and not the items video. Now, there are 2 side shops in DotA and they can be found in the remaining corners of the map. The side shops have various basic items from both the base shop and secret shops and are really useful during the laning stage as well as throughout the rest of the game for teleport scrolls if you need one. Finally, the secret shops hold the most valuable and powerful items in DotA, and you can find them. Well, actually I really shouldn't be telling you this because it's a secret. But since you guys are so eager to know, just promise me you won't tell anyone. It's right next to the bounty rune spots near the Radiant tier 1 tower on top lane and the Dire tier 1 tower on bottom lane. If you are ever wondering why you can't upgrade your items, chances are you need an item from here first. Now, you might not have heard this word before. I know I certainly hadn't when I first started DotA, but Juking is the art of escaping certain death by hiding and taking unexpected paths in the tree lines. When you first start DotA, you might not know about this at all, but there are many paths in the tree lines that you can run through and make it difficult for the enemy to see you. These are really great to use when you are trying to escape from an enemy, or if you are trying to set up a gank or a kill on an enemy, as it hides your position unless the enemy is standing right beside you. Now, I've been showing you some of these paths in the video on the screen, but there are so many of these in DotA that I encourage you to have a go at finding them yourself and learning them as they are really useful to know. Alright, the final thing I wanted to cover was the minimap, which I touched on in the interface video of the series. Now, the minimap represents the full map in DotA and importantly displays the locations of buildings, including towers and shrines, creeps as well as heroes. It also shows the locations and tiers of the neutral creeps, the locations for the bounty and the power runes when they spawn, and also the shop locations. If you squint your eyes really hard, you can also make out some of the larger juke spots, and if you can't see them, just squint a little bit harder and I'm sure you'll see them soon. There's really not much else to say about the minimap, but if you learn what the icons are on the map, it does make learning the map a lot easier. Thanks everyone for watching the ultimate beginner's guide to DotA 2. The next episode will be all about items, so make sure you subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to turn on notifications so you hear about my videos as soon as they are released. Definitely, itemization is something that a lot of people ask me about, so I'll be going through the basics then and you don't want to miss that one. Also, don't forget to like the video if it's helped you out and share it with your friends if you think it might help them too. Thanks again for watching and happy gaming!